this is a sociology class. It's not a political science class. It's not a law class. We're not talking about the legality of free speech and so on. We're talking about the sociology of it. In other words, the practice of free speech or speech codes and how they play themselves out in our day-to-day lives and how they impact our behavior, most importantly. And because that's the most interesting thing for sociologists is behavior. It's not like you can have all sorts of thoughts and ideas, but like, what do you do? And how do those thoughts and ideas translate into your actions? This is kind of a timely topic because, in Social 19, we're talking about, this is really kind of a cauldron of controversial issues. Yeah, every day we're addressing issues where we have to, this is that line, we have to walk up against the line and we have to decide, are we going to cross over it or not cross over it? And it's very complicated. Just like you, as people who are born in another place, you came here to study, like when you think about, first off, is this talked about back home, the U.S. and freedom of speech and stuff? Is that something that is a point of conversation?
Like we've heard that like the freedom of speech, like this is like the first thing like about like the U.S.
About the U.S.?
Like the freedom of speech, like you can say whatever you want. And like I don't feel like lately people can actually do that. I feel like they're scared. Like for example, I can't say anything on my mind that might jeopardize like my like scholarship or like my status here in the U.S. So,
okay, but one of the first things you learn about when you think about the U.S. is freedom of speech, freedom to say what you think, different speech codes than in other countries. And by the way, by speech codes, what I mean is the scaffolding. Like free speech isn't just, hey, it's not that you can say whatever you want, because there are lots of things you never could say here.
Yeah,
right?
like your opinions. And,
but right. So speech codes is just like the ways in which the codes we use. Some are laid out clearly, and some are not so clearly about what you can and can't say, or should and should not say. So I'm going to give you an example here, and then I'm going to come to you. In the U.S., we have this term. We used to say colored people for black people. Okay, and then at some point in time, we just stopped using that. In the kind of 70s and definitely in the 80s, it became people of color. And that just became the better one, because colored people was associated with Jim Crow in the time when there was a lot of segregation against black Americans. And so it became seen as sort of like as a negative term. Even though it wasn't per se, right? It was just a common used term. If you speak another language, I can ask the two of you, what's the difference, just in terms of, forget about what I just said, the difference between colored people and people of color?
There's no difference.
There's no difference, right?
In my language?
Yeah, going from Arabic to English.
There's no difference.
There's no difference, right?
Oh.
So what I hear a lot in this class is international students, people for whom English is not their first language, will often use colored people. And then you'll hear a certain kind of bristling in the class because Americans have learned that, you don't say colored people. But the two of you can say colored people because it's like there's no difference, right? But this is a code. It's a code that you haven't learned. You haven't learned it because it's not part of, it's awkward. People of color, it doesn't make sense if you're trying to learn English. People of color, what the hell does that mean? So I hear lots of international students in this classroom will still say colored people. And like, yeah, okay, it makes a lot of sense. Okay, that's a code. All right, bro, so the question is, back when you think about yourself growing up, you think about free speech in the United States, what do you think?
So you can criticize the government, criticize what they do, but you can't say like, I hate you, so I want to kill you tomorrow. That's something you cannot say.
You can't say. What can you say though? What did you hear about free speech in the US?
So, for example, I think Donald Trump, the President Trump, is not a good president. That's what you can say.
Right. So you can say that here, and everyone, and nobody's gonna say it. Like, you're not gonna be in trouble. No one's gonna come through that door over there.
Can we say that?
You can say that. Yeah, you can say. Anybody can say that. So you're saying, yeah, that's a thing that you could say here, and you're not gonna get in trouble for it at all. Well, you might have Trump supporters would be like, what are you saying that for, or whatever. But that's okay. Okay, so now I want to talk in very practical terms. Does it cross your mind to think, hey, I'm in the U.S. now. It's actually, things have changed in the past year. Okay, you said it. Like, hey, I got a visa here, and people with visas are getting into trouble by speaking their minds. And yeah, this is a whole new world here. Right? It was not true for. Do you have siblings who studied in the U.S.?
Yeah, I have like 4 siblings that studies in Pittsburgh and Texas.
Before you, they're older than you.
No, they're like here now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So it's a little bit different now. Yeah. How often do you think about it?
Like think about like
the fact that you're here and like, oh, we have free speech here, and wait, can I say? Can I not say? Can I?
Yeah, sometimes like in classes and sometimes like in social media, I don't really engage a lot lately since everything on social media is like now like controlled by like the government, and like it's just like it's scary out there for international students too.
Okay. Not controlled by you mean here in the US?
I mean, yes, here in the US.
Not controlled, but
not controlled, like they can like see it.
They can see it. Okay.
Yeah. And they can like deport you for that. And there's like stories that happened earlier this year about like even like Saudi students. And it was really sad.
Who got in trouble?
Who got deported
for being but I think most of them wasn't just saying something, but actually being involved in activities.
Like like going out and protest about like stuff. Yeah, you can't do that.
Do you have a similar thing? You've been here 4 years. Have you changed the way you think about what you say in the past 4 years?
So I usually don't talk about political stuff. So
it doesn't really matter. So back 4 years ago when you first came, you weren't really talking about anything anyway.
Sometimes I went to Reddit and watch people criticizing Chinese.
So,
but I'm not quite interested in U.S. politics.
So you're here to study. What's your major again?
Economics.
You're here to study economics. That's your primary concern.
Yeah.
Oh, the other stuff doesn't really matter that much. And same for you. What do you study?
I study criminology.
Criminology.
Yeah.
So that's your primary goal. You don't look like someone who's going to be out protesting on the streets.
No, I can't.
Yeah. But the concern is that, hey, wait, we've made a shift here. There seems to be some kind of shift in the United States. And I need to be really careful.
Like, I couldn't go last summer. Like, this is my second semester here, and I couldn't go last summer for, like, Saudi because I saw, like, people in the airport. Like, they can go, like, through your, like, phone and stuff, and, like, a German, like, girl got, like, they did not let her enter the U.S., and I couldn't do that. So I couldn't go to Saudi.
So you didn't want, even though you probably don't have,
I don't really have anything, but like, what if? Like,
you were afraid.
I can't risk it.
You were afraid you could have that one thing that somebody sent to you, and it's on your phone, like on WhatsApp or something, some photo, it's on your phone, and they find it, and they're like, what's this doing on the phone? And you didn't clean your phone, and like, there you go.
The thing is, like, I really, like, respect everything. I really don't, like, have, like strong opinions on stuff, but like sometimes, like, you know, what if I have something? What if I reposted something? Or
oh yeah, or no, again, or if I send you something on WhatsApp and it shows up on your phone, it's on your phone. It could depending on your settings, it could easily go into your photos. And there it is. Same with you, right? It could be anything. And you're like, I didn't even look at that. But there it is. Okay, so the point being, there are stories out there, and each one of those stories, like the German one, there's a German couple down, and they went over to Mexico and came back over.
I think, yeah.
They got taken into custody. And then in the end, they got sent back to Germany. But I think they were in custody for a week or two or something. So you, as international students, you see those stories, and you're like, you don't know like the very specific parts of those stories, but that's kind of frightening.
Yeah, but like this is like I don't really know what happened, but like this is what like the media shows us.
But you don't need to know what happened. All you know is they got detained. They went through their phones. They said, "You're not coming in." You don't need to know the specifics. The point is they got detained for 1 or 2 weeks or whatever it is. And then, but you're a student and you're saying, I don't want to go back home and not be able to come back. I haven't done anything.
Yeah. It was different from tourist visa. Like my mom and my sister came earlier this year, and my brother, and they faced no trouble. But like students visa, or like especially lately, things are like really, really scary.
Okay, so let me ask the two of you a question. There are a lot of people are divided here in the United States. There's some people who guaranteed are going to hear what you're saying and be like, "Well, that's how it should be because you're a guest in our country," and even though what we're saying here is it could just be a simple photo on the phone that shows, I don't know, like the President of the United States in a dunce cap, in a clown costume.
I know that.
Okay, got it. It could be that, just that. So we're not talking Death to America videos of, burning flags. We're talking just something like that. And so there are people who say, well, but you shouldn't have that on your phone at all. So if you do, then we send you back home. Can you respond to that? Just the two of you? How would you respond to that? Because what I'm seeing are these two international students who are here you're trying to study. You're not hating anything or anybody. But you got these phones, they're very complicated. Things come in the phones, you don't know. And like you could get in the middle of something there.
I think it makes no sense. My mind, for example, you mentioned the in
clown costume.
The costume. But if the custom officer just saw one photo in my phone, it's explainable.
Yeah. Wait, say that again. If he just sees one photo on the phone, it would be explainable, probably. Yeah. You have the idea that it would be. Yeah.
I think it's fine.
But you're skeptical. You're still saying
have you seen this stuff on the media? Just like I know Saudi got my back, but I'm not gonna waste like all the work for just like I'm not gonna for something that I really got misunderstood or something.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. So the point is you're afraid. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I know a lot of people are. Do you, let me ask you this question. Do you have the idea, that Americans are really are too sensitive?
It depends on the subject, but perchance.
But back home, you wouldn't say anything on social media against the royal family. You wouldn't do that.
No.
Yeah. So for you, not saying something against the U.S. government is easy because you don't say anything against your own government.
Yeah.
So for you, it's okay, whatever.
But the difference is if something bad happened to me in Saudi and I really needed to talk about it, I can't go outside and protest. I just can't contact people and things will be taken care of. But here, you just wonder if I say something, are they going to take care of it?
Ah, really interesting. So we as Americans have this idea that we protect the rights of people. And if you're here, you don't have the two of you don't have the same rights as I do because you're not you're not American citizens. But we have this idea that you have rights, that we will still protect you. If you don't do anything wrong, you'll have rights and you're all good. But you don't. But right now you're saying, I don't know that that's necessarily true from stories.
I think there is this wrong notion that the freedom of speech is only US. I mean, I don't know about other constitutions, but in India we have Article 17, which gives you the right for the freedom of speech and protest. And like the volunteers aptly pointed out, I'm an international student myself, and the first thing I asked you when talking about this position was, will I get cancelled?
Yeah.
Or is there any strain on my visa and such? But I think what she aptly pointed out is the risk to reward ratio. Protecting your right of freedom of speech doesn't mean enforcing it.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about stuff like that, and obviously we're not American citizens, so a certain argument can be made for the fact that we may not deserve all the rights.
Well, you don't deserve all the rights.
And I get that argument completely. But when it comes to something like this, I mean, I'm a completely different person here and a completely different person back home. If I was the same person over here, I'd be dead in a day.
Well, not dead, but would you get canceled?
Oh, yeah.
Because back home you're really open about things?
Oh, yeah.
And so here you're not.
I'm a lot more blunt. I have to be a little bit more polished.
Oh, so you feel like back home your freedom of speech is really protected, whereas here it's not as protected as much as it is back home.
When I'm here, right, I have to be a certain way, do certain things, speak a certain way. I have to monitor everything that I speak. I can't, even if it's something that I really want to talk about, if I have to think, hit myself on the back 3 or 4 times to me, is this okay? Is this safe enough for me to say a few times? But back home, oh, I can talk.
You don't have to
anything.
worry about it. So the cameras are on. You're on YouTube. The government, when you speak in here, you're my main assistant right here with the microphone all the time. So at every moment you're asking yourself, is this okay to say in the United States?
Yeah, trust me, a lot of people, when I told my parents that I got this, my mom was like, it's a great opportunity, but be safe and
be safe.
Don't remember what you're going there for, which is studying, not having fun.
I got you. Yeah, that's intense.
Yeah, because
and you're not telling the Americans. You're not saying to the American people. None of you are saying to Americans like, "Hey, we should have the right to say whatever we want."
I don't think we should, because well, I'm not American.
Yeah,
I think
so that's fine. Like that's not an issue at all.
No, I think that's why it makes perfect sense, to be honest, because I'm not entitled to all the rights and all the amendments because I'm not an American.
Yeah, I got it.
Which is why I think I should be held to a higher level of conduct.
Yeah.
I think last semester there was a really good, or I think earlier this semester there was a good way of saying it. When you're visiting somebody's house or you're visiting your neighbor's house, you hold yourself to a higher level of etiquette than you do in your own house.
I just heard your house analogy and I was thinking I'm sort of a weird situation because you were saying like you're in someone else's invited house, but in my case, I'm American on my dad's side, but I lived my first 18 years in Panama. So I get to see basically like a divorced parent. I get to be myself in the US technically without repercussions, and I get to be myself in Panama without repercussions. I have to say that even on top of, let's say I have all the rights of a citizen of the US, I can still say that the repercussions for speaking here are way higher than the repercussions of speaking in my country in anything like things as small as social things. Like to give you an example to know what I mean, like my brothers all look differently. Like for me, because I was even a lot heavier back then, it is very normal in the street for someone, when they call my attention, they go like, "Hey, gordo," which means like yo, fat guy. Like, and for me, that's not an offensive thing because they're just describing me. Or my younger brother is a lot darker than me because of how he looks. And it's a normal thing that everyone calls him like, "Hey, negrito," which means like a dark kid. Yeah. But for him, that's a normal thing. And in Panama, that's a normal thing because they're just describing you. Or stores are called chinitos that are owned by any sort of Asian person. And they're not insulting this person. They're just like describing the business, which might seem weird and might seem offensive here. But I do feel like language here in general, even as a person who has all the rights of a U.S. citizen, is a lot harder
So you
to monitor.
So you find yourself similarly monitoring yourself.
Yeah.
With the things that you say.
Even without
here.
the consequences of not being a citizen.
Yeah. Even though it doesn't matter, but you can still get canceled. You still have all these other issues.